Hi friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and as you saw in the thumbnail, this is the Civivi QUBIT. We've got blue anodized aluminum. Comes in, what, 5 different colors I think it is. You can get either this satin finish or a black wash finish, or there's a Damascus version as well. Of course, the Damascus version is going to cost a little bit more because the steel is going to cost more, but this is 14C28N, just barely sub 3 inches for the blade length, and you might be interested in this thing. It's right and left friendly, button lock with thumb studs. If that's not enough to intrigue you, well then go watch something else. It's your life, do what you want, right? Let's come on to the tabletop. Those of you who are still with me, we're going to take a good close look at this thing. We're going to take it apart and find out what I think of it. Okay, so here it is. What's the model number? It's C22030E dash, whatever the color code is, or steel code, whatever, dash XX, whatever you want to call it. We've got a nice knife here. I bought this knife, so it's not a freebie that I got. Let's look at it in some detail. I like this blade shape. This is a very good ODYSEE blade shape, in my opinion. What we've got is a drop point, we've got a belly. They're very much on the same, circumference, or radius is what I should say, not circumference. Circumference is all the way around a circle. Come on, Jake, use your brain. About the same radius, which means it comes to a nice point. You can call it a spear point blade if you want to. Full flat grind, which I quite like. Thumb studs right there, which are quite nice. Totally usable on either side. We've got a little bit of jimping on the spine, and of course a little bit more would be nicer, but hey, a little bit is better than none, that's for sure, and it's good jimping. We've got a button lock that works. It's not, let's see, let me push that button in, see how freely this falls. Yeah, it's quite good. It wants to fall, it wants to close. The angle that I've got the camera on, of course, you can't see it, how drop shutty it is, but yeah, it's got decent action, good movement. You can play with it with using just the button lock. Let's see if I got room under here to do this. Tends to bounce out a little bit because I let go of the button at the wrong time. But when I let go of the button at the right time, you can just fidget it just with the button lock. There, I just hit another thing underneath here. Got to be careful here. So the action is a little better than it looks on the video because, I've got a tiny little space here. Anything that's off camera, really, I don't have much space here at all. So, yeah, pretty decent. Yeah, you've noticed already, and everybody's been talking about this for a while. Not everybody, I guess, because I don't watch any of the reviews of knives that I'm going to review, so I don't know what anybody else has to say about this knife. But I'm sure they're talking about the bottle opener a little bit. And I tested it. The bottle opener works just fine. I'm not a fan of the bottle opener, but that doesn't mean I dislike the bottle opener. I didn't have any problems, since it's tipped down, had no problems going in and out of pockets. Stuff was not catching on there. And it's functional. My one concern is, and I've not opened very many bottles. I've found one bottle to open. My concern is it's going to wear off right here. This anodization, I believe it's anodization that they've done on top of this aluminum. It's going to chip, after a few times. It shouldn't chip super easily, but it's going to chip eventually up on here or, wear off or whatever on that spot right there. So just be aware of that. The handle, well, we've got a nice shape. We've got aluminum, solid blanks of aluminum. If they do higher end versions of this, maybe a nice titanium. Of course, it's going to be milled out on the inside to keep it even lighter. But this is not a heavy knife, under 3 ounces, and I'll give you the exact measurements later on. But this is just solid aluminum. I think they bead blasted it before they anodized it. It's got a little bit of texture to it. You rub your thumb on it and stuff, and it just has just enough grab to be nice. I like the texture on here. Still fairly smooth, but it's not like mirror finish smooth. It's not like that at all. We've got lanyard pin right there, a nice little one. Nice and open pillar construction. looks good. Great for tying off a lanyard. We've got pocket clip. It's, I think that's a bead blast finish as well. And, you know, it's got a little flat section up top. It's Civivi pocket clip, which their pocket clips are just quite good. I'm not fond of the fact that you've got T6 screws in there, but I haven't had problems with Civivi's T6 screws on their pocket clips, so it's not really a big deal. It's just, I don't like that it's T6, but I do like that it's flush. So it goes straight down, your pocket goes in there, nothing gets caught on the, you know, studs of those screws, on the heads of those screws, I should say. On this side, we've got the Civivi T8 screws. They're a little bit like a button lock. I don't think that the chamfer on the edge of the screw heads used to be quite as much as it is now. They were more square before, and then, you know, the flat top. But now it's like, if this is the flat top of the screw head where, you know, the screwdriver goes in, it's a little bit chamfered up on the top. So it looks a little bit like a button lock, which a button screw, which I don't really like. It is a button lock. You know, it can have junk getting in there. Oh well, it is what it is. Let's take a look and see how free playing these are. Nice snug screw head, very little screwdriver play in there. That is if you use decent, good quality screwdrivers. The T8, let's take a look at that. Again, very little play in there. Nice and snug. And the pivot screw, it's even nicer. Very, very little play in there, but you get full engagement. Really, really like these screwdrivers. If you want to know where I get these screwdrivers, I'll leave links down below. There's links in the description of every single video of a number of different places where you can get discounts if you use my links, you know, discount codes, and just links for stuff that I think is important down in the video description, and I've been leaving it in the comments now as well. Just expand my top comment, and there's all kinds of stuff in there. The lock, that's the next thing. No, actually, no, let's not talk about the lock next. Let's show you the pocket clip in working order. Climbs over, holds snug, quite decent indeed. Of course, this bright blue stands out a little bit. You can get some of the other colors. Some places don't have very many of the pink. So if you want to buy one for your girlfriend, or if you really like pink. The other thing about the pocket clip is right and left opening. And here's the opening spot for the left side. And you've got your T8 screw. And here's one thing I wish Civivi would change. It's not a con, it's just I wish they would change. I wish they would add a second screw right here so that this would have a screw in it. I know it's just a blank screw. It's not going anywhere. It's not doing anything except for cosmetic. But cosmetic's important, or else, you know, you wouldn't make a nice looking knife, right? Cosmetic's important. And I think a screw in there would be really nice. Or better yet, you know, if they did what Ganzo, you know, the guys that make really inexpensive knives do, they put a little steel blank in there and they screw it in, and it just looks nice. But leaving an open threaded hole there, that just doesn't look nice to me. Now to the lock. Yes, button lock, already talked about it. Works really well. It's got a little bit of a dish to it. It's got milled rings or lines milled into it, so your thumb gets a good texture on it. I really like it. Doesn't stick out too far. It sticks out far enough, and you can grip it, which I really like. Oh, we don't need the screwdriver in the picture anymore. I like this lock. It's got a little bit of lock stick from the factory, which is to be expected, and it's starting to smooth out a little bit already for me, but it's going to smooth out more with more use, so nothing wrong with that. How well does the thing cut? Okay, it cuts okay. It cuts. I really like this blade shape. It's good for minor piercing. You've got a fairly thin tip, so it's not for, you know, going around stabbing all kinds of stuff, but it's good for piercing. It's good for delicate work. It's good for, you know, cutting into stuff straight down. It's good for slicing. It's a really good blade shape. Nice and thin behind the edge. The grind angles, well, they are both awesome and not awesome at the same time, and I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. The final thing I want to talk about, and maybe this is what you've been wanting to hear the whole time, is what about this? Is this a forward choil or a sharpener's choil? That's my question. Is it a forward choil or a sharpener's choil? I think it's neither really well. If it was a sharpener's tool, you could get another, couple millimeters of cutting edge out of this thing and it would still be past that plunge line. It's not really a forward choil because you can't really get your finger in that area and keep it safe from that sharp edge. I did nick the side of my finger one time when I just grabbed it. You have to aim for the middle of this transition point and put the middle of your finger right there, and then you can be safe, which works okay. There's enough jimping if you keep your thumb back here like this. Don't try to reach out, because then it's not smooth back here, but it's not rough either. So yeah, it's okay. It's just odd the way that is. I would either like it to be a full forward choil or a smaller sharpener's choil. That being said, that's just a preference thing. It's not really a con. It's just I don't quite understand why they made it the way they made it. So there you go. That's that stuff. Balance point. Let's look at that right there. Now, if they would have, done some weight reduction on this handle, then maybe it could be a little closer over here, which I would like. But that's pretty standard for a lot of knives to be that far back. I just don't understand that balance point. I would much rather have it closer to balancing right over the pivot point. So there you go. Let us now take the thing apart and I'll show you how it's constructed. Here's the screws, and you can take a good close look at those in my hand, especially this tiny screw. Hopefully I can get a good still image and you can see the angle of that chamfer on there and how big it is. It's okay. There's a race in here because aluminum's too soft to handle ceramic ball bearings, so they put a little washer, a race in there for it. And back here we've got the lanyard pin and the open pillar construction. Nice wide posts, really like that. Stop pin and stop pin. You need 2 stop pins on this design. And there's the button lock right there. And the part that engages is nice and smooth and shiny. Very nicely done. Happy about that. The typical Civivi pin that's got the locking point on there so that it sits only in one spot right there. So that's quite nice. And of course I said these were ceramic ball bearings. What do we got? We've got 4, 8, 9 ball bearings in there. And they're pretty small, but they're ceramic, so that's quite nice. And that's about it for this knife. Just before I get on to the measurements, I forgot to talk about blade alignment. That's quite nice. And if I missed anything else, sorry about that. But the measurements here, the weight of this knife, 81 grams. That is 2.69 ounces, nice and light. The sharpness from the factory, 125 best, quite good, a little bit better than average. The length of the cutting edge, 68.5 millimeters, 2.69 inches. Oh, I got the weight wrong, didn't I? I said 2.69 ounces, didn't I? 2.86 ounces, 81 grams, 2.86 ounces. Blade length tip to the closest spot on the handle, 75.4 millimeters, 2.97 inches, just shy of 3 inches. Got confused there. Blade thickness. How thick is the blade stock at the thickest part here in the pivot and up on the ricasso? That is 2.25 millimeters, which is 88 thousandths of an inch, so under 1/10 of an inch. That's why I said this is not good for a lot of robust stabby. It starts off under 1/10 of an inch and just keeps getting thinner the closer you get to the tip. The blade depth this way, 29.1 millimeters, 1.14 inches. The thickness behind the grind, right at the edge, behind the sharpening grind that is, 0.4 millimeters, 16 thousandths of an inch. Nice and thin, no wonder it slices fairly well. Now it would slice even better if the grind angle was better, but the grind angle is awesome, I said. Well, in one way it's awesome. The average grind angle per side is 22.4 degrees. 22.4 degrees average on both sides. This side started at 22.5, ended at 22.3, so 0.2 degrees change along it. This side started at 22.54, ended at 22.4, at 22.4 all the way along. So very consistently sharpened. I just, probably the most consistently sharpened knife I've ever checked, ever. Of all the hundreds, I've reviewed over 1,000 knives, I think. So out of all of them, this thing sharpened better than any of the other ones I've ever measured in terms of consistency, both edges coming to the same angle and being well sharpened. It's just that 22.4 degrees, that's almost 45 degrees. Like half of 90 is 45. So you want 45 degrees going through stuff. No, on a knife like this, you want it less than that. Like I'd want it at least less than that. 18 degrees is probably the maximum I would put on either side. 14C28N, did I say the steel type before? I did in the intro. It can easily handle 18 degrees per side if you're not going to be banging it into things, which it's not a hammer. So yeah, there you go. The handle length. The handle length here is 107.3 millimeters, 4.22 inches. The grip area, so between my thumbs, I'm not counting this choil thing up here. That's right around 9.5 centimeters, which is about 3 3/4 inches. The thickness of the handle, 11.2 millimeters, 0.441 of an inch. Nice. The depth of the handle, the widest point within the grip area is back here, 25.8 millimeters, 1.01 inches. And when the knife is closed, the widest point's pretty much in the middle, 33.2 millimeters, 1.31 inches. And the total length, rounded to the nearest millimeter, 183 millimeters, right at 7.2 inches, with just a tiniest bit of rounding. So that's quite nice. I'm quite happy with, the dimensions and everything. Under 3 ounces, nice light knife, decent grip, good hand feel, oddness. Yeah, and that's about it. I have to say one more thing, other than, I find it odd to have a bottle opener on a knife. Now, some people don't find it odd. Now, I don't find it uncomfortable in this regard, in this knife, so, it's not a big deal. But I wondered how many people actually use a bottle opener more than once, well, I use a bottle opener less than once a month. I just don't have drinks that require a bottle opener. I'm not a beer drinker, and even if I was, the vast majority of beer in Canada, uses a twist top if it's a bottle. There's some craft beers, I guess, and some imported beers. Mexican beers, whatever. There's imported beers that need a bottle opener. It just doesn't, this doesn't make the knife more appealing to me. Thankfully, it doesn't really make it less appealing to me either. So, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Does a bottle opener make you want to buy this knife more or less, or is it neutral to you? Please let me know in the comments below. If you've watched this far, yeah, leave me a comment. I would really appreciate it. And it would also help this video out to perform better. By the way, the badging's just tiny. There's a little 14C28N right there on the ricasso on the blade. And you've got your C right there. I really, really like the tiny badging on Civivi. That's a big plus for me. It's a good knife. Right and left friendly. Right-handed button lock, but a button lock works in the left hand as well. So you can use it left. Whoops, there you go. I just need a bigger space here. You can use it left-handed if you want to. I'd make some changes, but then again, I'd make changes on every knife that I buy, wouldn't I? Yeah. So there you go. Thank you very much to my supporters. I appreciate your help very much. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.